जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना। यमुना तीरावनचारी। हरि बोल हरि बोल। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। कृष्ण कृष्ण जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा, प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शतश्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शतश्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। व्रज भूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। श्री श्री राधा अष्टमी महामहोत्सव की। श्री श्री राधा गोविंद देव की। श्रील प्रभुपाद की। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya namo namaha. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Verse 18. Yeah, can you increase the sound? Yeah, increase the sound. Hare Krishna. Is this good for you? Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad bhramatam uparyadah tallabhyate dukkha vadanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido न लभ्यते यद् भ्रमतामुपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखम् कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद् भ्रमतामुपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखम् कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा. तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद्भ्रमतामुपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखम् कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा. तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो. You can just reduce the height. Labhyate of the laptop. कालेन सर्वत्र गभीरम. Mataji's. तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद्भ्रमतामुपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखम् कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा. तस्यैव हेतो प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद्भ्रमतामुपर्यदः Kallabhyate dukkha vadanyata sukham. Kalena sarvatra kabhira ramhasa. Okay. Word to word. Tasya. For that purpose. Eva. Only. Heto. Reason. Prayateta. Should endeavor. Ko vidaha. One who is philosophically inclined. Na labhyate. Is not obtained. Yat. What? Brahmatam. Wandering. Upari adaha. From top to bottom. Tat. That. Labhyate. Can be obtained. Dukkavad. Like the miseries. Anyataha. As a result of previous work. Sukham. Sense enjoyment. Kalena. In course of time. Sarvatra. Everywhere. Gabhira. Subtle. Ramhasa. Progress. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada ki. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. Purport. Every man everywhere is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. Some men are busy engaged in trade, industry, economic development, political supremacy, etc. Some of them are engaged in fruity work to become happy in the next life by attaining higher planets. It is said that on the moon the inhabitants are fit for a greater sense enjoyment by drinking somaras, and the Pitra Loka is obtained by good charitable work. So there are various programs for sense enjoyment either during this life or in the life after death. Some are trying to reach the moon or other planets by some mechanical arrangement, for they are very anxious to get into such planets without doing good work. But it is not to happen. By the law of Supreme, different places are meant for different grades of living beings according to the work they have performed. By good work only, as prescribed in the scriptures, can one obtain good birth and good family, opulence, good education, and good bodily features. We also see that even in this life, one obtains a good education or money by good work. Similarly, in our next birth, we get such desirable positions only by good work. Otherwise, it would not so happen that two persons born in the same place at the same time are seen differently placed according to previous work. But all such material positions are impermanent. The positions in the topmost Brahmaloka and the lowest Patal are also changeable according to our work, our own work. The philosophically inclined person must not be tempted by such changeable positions. He should try to get into the permanent life of bliss and knowledge, where he will not be forced to come back again to the miserable material world, either in this or that planet. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they are obtained in Brahmaloka and other lokas also. They are obtained in the life of the demigods and also in the life of hogs and dogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of all living beings are only of different degree and quality, but no one is free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not, therefore, waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvshe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदवनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. We welcome all of you to our morning Bhagavatam class, especially on this auspicious occasion of Sri Radhàshtami. I especially chose this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam because this verse, in essence, says that do not aim for something which is to be found within the 14 planetary systems, within this material universe. Look for those things which are not available in this material world. Why in this material world, whatever we find, if you want happiness, you also get distress free of cost. So therefore, look for that transcendental object, the essence of all essence, that once gained is not lost. So, we find Krishna in Bhagavad Gita explains that the essence of all knowledge is the Bhakti Yoga. In that, so the middle section of Bhagavad Gita, chapters 7 to 12, form the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. In that also the middle portion of that section, which is chapter 9 and 10, forms the essence of that section. And even in that, the middlemost verse is 9.34, where Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. He tells how to become my devotee. And being my devotee, offering everything in love to me, offering your obeisances, your homage unto me, this forms the essence of all religion. Therefore, it's the essential verse of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Now, in that you will find, therefore, Bhakti Yoga is talked about a lot. Bhakti Yoga is the essence of all paths. An embodiment of that Bhakti, that pure Bhakti, devotional services, Srimati Radharani. So, of course, I don't consider myself qualified. There are many more others who are qualified to speak on the subject matter, because I have practically no realization regarding the subject matter. I'm more of philosophically inclined, not rasically inclined as of now. But at the same time, I had one senior devotee had asked me that whenever you get a speaking opportunity, never say no. So though I got many other names who can better speak today, better we can hear from them, but still I thought, if I get to speak, if I take this opportunity to speak, then it will help me go deeper in my own Krishna consciousness. And therefore, I have the audacity today to speak on this auspicious occasion. You will find, there is a bhajan about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which says, Yadi gaur na hoito, tabe ki hoito, yemona dhari tamde. Radhar mahima prema rasa sima jagat janat ke. Which actually says, Lord Chaitanya's descent in this world was to give us the most confidential, topmost path of Vraja Bhakti. In that also, this song especially explains how if Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared in this world, how ever would we have access to Srimati Radharani? However would we have access to the love for Krishna which Srimati Radharani has felt? So, therefore, the essence of even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings is to teach us that pure love felt by Srimati Radharani. Once Srila Prabhupada was in South India, and in South India in one temple, as Srila Prabhupada was speaking, the devotees there were saying, Swamiji, please, no, I want the TV. Okay. Swamiji, please give us some, let's have some discussion on Rasa Leela, they were saying. So Prabhupada said, no, Let's first discuss about philosophy. Raslila will come much later. So then the devotees there said, no, Prabhupada, no, Swamiji, we want to hear about Radha Krishna pastimes, Raslila. Then Prabhupada said, are you sure you are qualified to hear them? Then the devotee said, yes, we are all qualified. Then Srila Prabhupada said, but I am not qualified to speak. Because we see the Radha Krishna pastimes or topics, confidential pastimes of Srimati Radharani with Krishna is not to be discussed in a public platform. Even you will find in 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna that this confidential knowledge should not be given to abhaktas. Isn't it? So therefore, Srila Prabhupada had refused. Why? We will come to see. So there are two types of energy of Krishna. You know this verse, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natat samascha abhidyakascha drishyate, parasa shaktir vivideva shuyate, jnana swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. So it is said, Krishna actually has no work to do in this world. But at the same time, you see the material world is functioning. How does it happen? Krishna doesn't have to go into every department and make sure the workings are going on. He makes sure that his energies take care. So therefore, Krishna predominantly has two aspects of energy, two categories of energy. One is called Antaranga Shakti, internal potency, and other one is called as Bahiranga Shakti, which is the external potency. And we come as Tatastha Shakti. Why? Because we are on the shoreline. We can either fall towards Antaranga or we can fall away towards Bahiranga Shakti. See, Srila Prabhupada once explains that this energy is the same energy. Just as electricity is neither cold nor hot. Electricity is electricity. But when the electricity passes through an air conditioner, you find it cooling. But the same electricity, when it passes through a heater, you find it heating. So though electricity is neither cold nor hot, but still the electricity can produce different effects. So why am I saying this? Because you will find when Ravana kidnapped Sita for his enjoyment, that Sita became the destruction of Ravana. When Hanuman wanted to serve Sita by seeing Sita next to Ram, that service attitude became source of bliss. So when we want to serve Krishna along with his internal potency, or should we say serve internal potency along with Krishna, that time the Antaranga Shakti, Srimati Radharani, facilitates our bhakti. She is ready to hand us over to Krishna. Whereas on the other hand, if we want to exploit energies of Krishna for one's own sense enjoyment, that time the same energy becomes Bahiranga Shakti, where she actually facilitates our suffering. So, when we talk about spiritual matters as confidential as this, we have to be very careful not to mundanize the spiritual subject matter. How do we mundanize spiritual subject matter? By thinking that extraordinary thing to be ordinary. Why? Because one may feel the ordinary things of this world to be extraordinary. Depends on the level of consciousness. So when we talk about, sometimes when the students are new, we are telling them, look at the deities. They don't find so much beauty there. They'll come, take 2 minutes darshan and go away. But when the boys come together in the hostel room, they can talk hours together about wine, women and wealth. Isn't it? Why? Because the ordinary thing has become extraordinary. But the extraordinary has become ordinary. So therefore, before we talk about Radha Krishna pastimes, it's very important to understand that Krishna's dealings with the gopis, they are not on a mundane platform. Krishna's enjoyment is not material. When Srila Prabhupada spoke the same lecture on Radhàshtami, this is what he started with. First of all, when he starts talking about the occasion of Radhàshtami, first of all he tells all the devotees there that Krishna's enjoyment is not material. How we can understand? You will find it is said, Ramante yogino anante. Satyananda Chedatmani. That means in this world, the great people who are retiring to the forest, leaving back everything, just because they want higher source of pleasure. Isn't it? The yogis, the sadhus, the saintly people, the sannyasis, the renounced order. Why are they leaving and kicking off material attachment? Because they want something higher. You will find the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the story of King Bharata. King Bharata, it is said, he was at the prime of his youth. And as was the custom of Kshatriyas in those days, he had many beautiful queens. And while he had many beautiful queens, he also had praja, citizens, who were his yes men. They would carry out all his orders. And of course, the wealth, the kingdom, name and fame. He had everything. And prime of youth, he had the energy to enjoy them. But still, Bharat Maharaj quit everything and went to the forest. And fifth canto explains, how did he go to the forest? Just as a man who goes to the forest to pass stool and leaves without looking back in attachment. If we use the bathroom and we have passed stool, who will look at the stool and say, probably I have some attachment, before flushing? None of us will experience that attachment. We want to flush it as soon as possible. Similarly, Bharata wanted to get rid of material attachment as soon as possible. Why? To attain Krishna, Krishna's lotus feet. Similarly, you will find Shukadev Goswami, as soon as he appeared in this world, he wanted to retire again to the forest. Vyasadeva, his father himself, was plenary portion of Krishna. Though his explanation Shatyavesh avatar, he's empowered by Krishna. But still, Shukadev Goswami left the home. Why? Because he was born Brahman realized. And therefore he understood that he didn't want anything to do with material attachment, anything to do with mundane relationships. And therefore he went to the forest. But as we hear from our teachers, Shukadev Goswami, when he went to the forest, he heard the woodcutters singing. My teacher was saying that these woodcutters were the disciples of Vyasadeva. So these woodcutters were told by Vyasadeva that you should sing the glories of Krishna, highlighting especially two qualities, which are his merciful nature and his beauty. Barhapidam natavaravapu karnayo karnikaram bibradvashah kanaka kapisham vaijayantim chamalam randraveno radrasudhaya purayan gopa vrindair vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gita kirtihi. So this verse explains the beauty of Krishna. Then they also spoke a verse which explains the merciful nature of Krishna, which explains how Putana, who came to kill Krishna, was given the position of a nurse in the spiritual world, position of a mother in the spiritual world. So hearing this, that Shukadev Goswami, who immediately left home to go to Vrindavan, to go to the forest, immediately turned back and went back home to hear from his father. What? The glories of Krishna. Similarly, you will find even Lord Buddha, Prabhupada explains, Buddha also was at the prime of his youth. He had many queens. He was a prince before he quit everything for a higher source of pleasure. So you will find example after example in history and in Puranas that there are people, yogis, saintly people, sadhus, sannyasis, they're ready to give up everything mundane to attain Krishna's lotus feet. Then how can Krishna enjoy something that is material? People are giving up material attachment to go to Krishna. And do you think Krishna's enjoyment is material? Sri Prabhupada says, no, that's not possible. So, therefore, the first aspect we can understand why Krishna's dealings with the gopis is not material, because we see people are actually giving up material attachment to attain Krishna. How can Krishna be on a material platform? We are chanting Hare Krishna to get our hearts purified of material attachments. How can Krishna's enjoyment be material? That's what Prabhupada speaks about first. Then there's a story in one of the Upanishads, I think it's Gopal Tapani Upanishad, which says, once the gopis were very eager to get Krishna as their husband. So they asked Krishna, what should we do to make sure that we get you as the husband? How do we gather those blessings, that mercy? Krishna said, I have a devotee, Durvasa, who is on the other side of Yamuna. When you go and meet him, take some offering with you and offer it to him. He will bless you that I will become your husband. So the gopis said, okay, not a problem. So as they took the offerings to Yamuna, they saw Yamuna was completely welled up and she was very deep. So they couldn't cross on their own. So they were all thinking what to do, and they went back to Krishna to ask, Krishna, please tell us, how can we cross Yamuna? Krishna told them, when you reach the shores of Yamuna, just say, Krishna is a brahmachari. When you say this statement, Krishna is a brahmachari, then the Yamuna will open up. And then you can cross across the Yamuna. But they were confused. They have spent, at night Krishna would call them on by playing his flute. So they knew for sure Krishna is not a brahmachari, because they themselves have dealt with Krishna. So then, though they were confused, but they wanted to offer these offerings to Durvasa. Anyway, with faith, they said, Krishna is a brahmachari. So as they spoke this, Yamuna opened up and they went across. As this happened, they met Durvasa, they gave their offerings to Durvasa, and Durvasa Muni blessed them that Krishna would become their husband. And now there was another problem. They had to return back. On returning again, river was closed. So Krishna had told them how to get to the other side, but he didn't tell them how to come back. So then they asked Durvasa Muni, what to do? And Durvasa Muni said, you should say, Durvasa is a upavasi. Upavasi means one who does a lot of fasting. But they thought we just gave a huge feast level of offering to him, and he ate all the sweets, all the savories, all the rice, puris, everything. He himself ate a huge feast. How can Durvasa be an upavasi? But they said, okay, let us put faith, because we anyway have to cross the Yamuna. And they came to the shores of Yamuna. They said, Durvasa is upavasi. And the Yamuna opened up and they came across. So they were completely bewildered by this incident. They went to Krishna and they asked for explanation. That time Krishna tells them, yes, sometimes a pure devotee may also act on the level of ordinary human being, but he is not ordinary. Therefore, though Durvasa accepted the offerings, your offerings, but he doesn't make him ordinary. He is not eating for the pleasure of eating. Similarly, Krishna Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Krishna said, my activities are not mundane. So though I'm dealing with you in a way that you want to reciprocate with me, but I am not affected by such dealings. Krishna is only reciprocal in relationship. He's not lusty. Krishna doesn't embrace only gopis. He also embraces cows. He also embraces cowherd boys. But because our mind is affected by lust, we think towards one aspect of Krishna. Isn't it? So Krishna explained to the gopis that he is also completely transcendental. Then you'll find, let me just show you a verse. Yeah, here. This comes in the first canto again. Here it says how Krishna, when he goes back to Dwarka and he meets the queens, what is their reaction? How does Krishna react to them? Can you please repeat? Uddhama bhava pishunama laval guhasa Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuya chapamajaha pramadottamasta Yasyendriyam vimatitum kuhakai nashekuhu. Yeah, anyone has mic? Can read the translation.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord.
Yeah. They had enough capacity to agitate the tolerant Shiva, but not Krishna. But it is still explained that Krishna behaves as a henpecked husband. Why? Ye yatamam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamyaham. You go to Krishna and think he is just a stone, Krishna will be a stone for you. You go to Krishna and think that he is a lover. I love Krishna. Krishna will also be loving. Isn't it? Therefore, the queens of Dwarka wanted Krishna as their husband. Krishna appeared as husband. They wanted a husband who will be controlled by their desires, overpowered by their love. Krishna became that. But not to say that Krishna became henpecked husband in our terms, in material terms. Isn't it? So, similarly, you will find in this verse, it is here it is said, tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them. You know, once Lord Shiva, after he lost Sati, he went into deep meditation because he wanted to calm down. This is just after he he cut off the head of Daksha and he came back. So now he was very agitated, so he wanted to calm down. He sat in deep meditation for a long time. At that time, the demigods also were in war with the Asuras. So when this happened, they understood there's only one person with whose help we can win the war. And that is Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva is in meditation. What to do? So they sent Cupid. Now when they sent Cupid, their intention was to use Cupid to agitate Shiva. So as Cupid took his bow and arrow, shot the arrow in the heart of Shiva, immediately Shiva opened his eyes and opened the third eye to burn down Cupid. And he went back to meditation. Which goes to show Shiva wasn't at all affected by Cupid's arrow. At the same time, you will find in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, after the Samantana Manthan Leela, Shiva actually requests Lord Vishnu to again display the Mohini Murti form because he says, I've never seen such a beautiful form. At that time when Vishnu says, are you sure you want to really witness my beautiful form of Mohini Murti? Shiva says, yes. And when he displays Mohini Murti's form, Shiva starts chasing the Mohini Murti form. And cleverly Lord Vishnu goes through those hermitages which were filled with the disciples of Lord Shiva, followers of Lord Shiva. All the strong, all the most renounced ascetics and rishi munis. They were all seeing their own Lord going behind a woman. Isn't it? Of course, Lord Shiva, internally, he did this just to glorify Lord Vishnu. But in a way, you can understand beauty exhibited by Krishna in the form of Mohini Murti, but that form actually agitated Shiva. Isn't it? And it is said, finally, he released semen. So now this form which agitated Shiva, so which goes to show nothing matches the beauty of Lord Krishna. So therefore he is called as Madan Mohan. Venum Kwananta Maravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhava Tamsa Sundarangam Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham means the beauty exhibited by Krishna is actually, it conquers the hearts of millions of cupids. It's unmatched. But this Madan Mohan is actually going behind another beauty. Of course, we will study how it is expansion of his own tattva. But he is going behind another devotee of his, but a part of his, which is Srimati Radharani. And therefore she is called as Madan Mohan Mohini. That means she actually bewilders even Lord Shri Krishna, who bewilders thousands and millions of cupids. So you will find in this way Krishna is not agitated by anyone but Srimati Radharani. So how can this relationship be material? Again, another instance, once Indra he became scared by the austerities performed by Naranarayan rishis. So he sent some apsaras to, make them fall down. So that time Naranarayan Rishi understood the plan of Indra, and from his thigh he produced one Urvashi and many other apsaras from just the thigh. And seeing this, Indra understood these are not normal people. He is actually the supreme person of Godhead and his devotee, Naranarayan Rishi. And therefore he, got subjugated by them, and he went back along with the extra apsaras produced from the thigh of Naranarayan Rishi. So Krishna is not agitated by material lust, but what gets him conquered is the spiritual love. See, in this verse, let me show you another one. There's an explanation in the Ras Leela. There are different gopis who had assembled. I think it's there. Okay. Yeah. Antargriha gata kaschid gopyo labda vinirgamaha Krishnam tad bhavana yukta dadyurmilita lochanaha. Yeah. Anyone with the mic?
Some of the gopis, however, could not manage to get out of their houses, and instead they remained home with eyes closed, meditating upon him in pure love.
Yeah. So in this purport, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains who are these gopis, the different categories of gopis. Yeah, he quotes Rupa Goswami Ujjwala Niyamani, and there are two categories of gopis. First one category of gopis were Nitya Siddhas. That means the Nitya Siddhas means they are perfect. Therefore, they had spiritual bodies. And the other category of gopis are called as the Sadhana Siddhas. Now, in these Sadhana Siddhas, there are further categories. What is that category? One is a special group of Sadhana Siddhas, other one is not special group. So, in the special group of Sadhana Siddha gopis, there are two kinds. One is called the Shrutichari gopis. Shrutichari gopis are the personified Vedas who came in the form of gopis. So they are also spiritual. And other ones are Rishichari gopis. Rishichari gopis are the sages in the previous lives, who they were sages when they had met Lord Ram in the Dandakaranya forest. So that is the time they actually saw how Mother Sita is worshipping Lord Ram, serving Lord Ram so intimately. And they also got that desire. But Lord Ram had taken Ekapatni Vrat. So he said, in the future incarnation, when I come as Krishna, that time you come as the gopis, and that time you can serve me. So they are called as the Rishichari gopis. So these are the special group of Sadhana Siddha gopis, who are, because they are Rishichari gopis, just imagine, if Krishna dances with a Rishi Muni, will anyone mistaken Krishna? No. So these gopis were Rishis, or they were personified Vedas. Now, the not special group, those who are not part of the special group, there's a further explanation you will find. Okay, this is from Padma Purana. Gopyastu Shutayogyeya Rishija Gopakanyakaha Devakanyas Rajendra Na Manushya Katanchana. There was not one human being in that Ras Leela, it says. Who were present? Shutayogyeya, that means the Shrutichari gopis. Rishija, that means they were Rishi Munis. Gopakanyakaha means they were gopis, but these are referring to Nitya Siddhas. That is, they are eternally perfect. And Devakanyas, demigods who came as gopis. Na Manushya Katanchana. Not one human being was there. Yeah. So here it's made clear, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur makes it very clear, that Gopakanyas must be eternally perfect, since we never hear of them executed in sadhana. Only sadhana was worshipping goddess Katyayani to get Krishna as husband, but that was for the sake of pastime. They were playing as a human being, that's why. Yeah, this is what we discussed. Gautamiya Tantra says, Ladiniya Mahashaktihi. Eternal perfection is that these gopis being co-eternal with Lord Krishna, their lover, are mentioned along with him in the 18-syllable mantra, different mantras. And Devakanyas are daughters of demigods. Yeah. Rishichari Gopi is also sadhana siddha, as stated in Ujjvala Nilamani. Gopalo pasakaha purvam aprapta bhishta siddhayaha. Previously, they were all Maharishis living in the Dandaka forest. And for that, there is reference from Ramayana, Uttarakhand. Like that. And what happened to those gopis who were not part of the special group? That means they had desire to associate with Krishna, but they were not completely free from mental contamination. That means they had eagerness to serve Krishna, but at the same time they were not pure devotees. So those are the gopis who were held back by husbands and fathers and etc. They were not permitted to go to Rasmandali. In the present verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand that it was the gopis who had children who were forcibly kept at home. Yeah. Okay, let me show you another one. I think it comes up. Yeah, and there were some sadhana siddha gopis. How did they become perfect? Because they got association of Nitya Siddha gopis. And those sadhana siddha gopis who were bereft of association of Nitya Siddha gopis, they had to remain back because they could not. It talks about the Purva Rag. Purva Rag means complete attachment to Krishna. That was not there because of being bereft of association of Nitya Siddha gopis. Like that, it talks about different categories of gopis. But one point which we can take home is not one gopi was in material form. They were all perfected individuals. Either Nitya Siddha or Sadhana Siddha who have become Nitya Siddha. Completely perfect. In this way, even in NOD, in one commentary, it is said how supremacy of Krishna is proved by him being Brahma Rudradi Mohanam. He tricked or he bewildered Brahma by his Brahma Vimohan Leela. He bewildered Shiva by his Mohini Murti form. He bewildered even Balramji. When? Anyone knows? When did Krishna bewilder Balram? Yes, in the Brahma Vimohan. Yes, correct. So that time he stole, and he actually expanded as the Gopas and the cows and the monkey children, everyone. But Balram did not get to know at all. Even Balram was thinking, it seems to be special last 1 year. There's a lot of love being showered upon by the parents to the children. Why? Because Krishna kept even him in illusion. Therefore, Brahma, Rudra, Adi. Adi means even Balram, Mohanam. So like this, we understand Krishna is completely supreme, unparalleled supreme. Matta parataram na anyat. So when this Supreme Lord, who is unparalleled in Tattva, when he wants to enjoy, why will he go for material enjoyment, which is even rejected by the Rishi Munis, Sannyasis? They reject as tuchcha. Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukham tuchcham, insignificant. They reject it as insignificant. So why will Krishna go for it? So therefore Krishna's enjoyment is not material. So therefore we want to understand who is Srimati Radharani. We want to understand these different pastimes. But in one article, His Holiness Jayadvait Maharaj says that we cannot do it based on mental speculation. Prabhupada, time and again in his lectures and purports, he keeps on hitting that don't jump like monkeys just from one canto to 10th canto. You have to go in sequence. You have to understand the tattva before accessing rasa. Let me just show you one passage. I'll just read one small passage from his lecture on Radhàshtami. Sri Prabhupada says here. Please listen carefully. So Radha Krishna philosophy is very great philosophy. It is to be understood in liberated stage. That means from Brahma Bhuta platform one can understand Radha Krishna pastime. How many of us can confidently say we are on a liberated stage? Very difficult. At the same time, doesn't mean we don't have access. There is a way. Radha Krishna philosophy is not to be understood in the conditioned stage. But when we worship Radha Krishna in our conditional stage, actually we worship Lakshmi Narayan. We have seen that picture. This Vidhi Marg and Raga Marg. Radha Krishna worship is on the platform of pure love, and Lakshmi Narayan worship is on the regulative principles. So long we do not develop our pure love, we have to worship on regulative principles. One has to become a brahmachari, one has to become a sannyasi, one has to perform the worship this way and that way. In the morning he has to rise, he has to offer. So many rules and regulations. There are at least 64 rules and regulations. Later on he goes to say, so without Vidhi Marg, if anyone wants to learn the Raga Marg immediately, that is foolishness. Without Vidhi Marg, if one wants to jump to Raga Marg, it is foolishness. That is foolishness. Nobody can pass MA examination without going through the regular principles of primary schools and colleges. So therefore, I mean to say, indulge in the discussions of Radha and Krishna so easily. Rather go on with the regular principle at the present moment. Gradually, as you become purified, as you become on the stage on the transcendental platform, you will understand what is Radha Krishna. If we want to understand Radha Krishna very quickly, then there will be so many Prakrita Sahajiyas. Prakrita means neophytes, who will say, I have great devotion for Radha Krishna, who can even show you tears. But actually they have tears for Radha Krishna also, they have tears for sense gratification also. Such people. So if we skip Vidhi Marg and go to Raga Marg, this is the result. You will get a lot of Sahajiyas in society. Yeah, just like Radha Krishna dancing, Radha Krishna has become a plaything. The painting Radha Krishna, Krishna is kissing Radha, Radha is kissing. These are all nonsense. Radha Krishna philosophy has to be understood by the liberated person, not by the conditional soul. So we shall await for that fortune moment when we are liberated. Then we shall understand Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir. Like that Prabhupada says. And there's one more document I'll just show you. This shows who has the adhikar to hear Ras Leela. This was shared by Radhàshtami Prabhu. It's from some commentary of Acharyas. Let me. You can see here. See, there are four types. There are four types of hearing. First one is incidental hearing. That means when you sit in some lecture, Bhagavatam lecture, you may hear some pastimes of Radha and Krishna, isn't it? So those are fine. Hearing of Ras Leela in the course of one's reading without pursuing the subject matter is referred to as incidental hearing. This is fine. Then second one is purposeful hearing. Refers to inquiring about a particular subject or pastime of special interest. For example, Prabhupada says, any further information about Madhvacharya, one should read Madhva Vijaya. In his purport, he says, CC. In such purposeful hearing, devotees must be mindful of their own qualification. Without this awareness, research into topics of special interest may lead to misunderstanding. That is purposeful hearing. Then practiced hearing. This is by Raganuga Sadhana Bhaktas at Ruchi stage. This happens when devotees regularly hear specific topics about Krishna with the purpose of recalling them in the course of their service. These topics may include description of Krishna's form, quality, pastimes, which are best recalled while chanting Hare Krishna. So they were always absorbed in thoughts of Prabhupada says about 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, how Krishna is, having his pastimes, his activities by thinking. They could forget the material prosperity in exchange of thinking about Krishna. Like that is practiced hearing. The 6 Goswami practiced it. And final one is specific hearing. This happens this is done by devotees beyond Ruchi stage. And what is the type of practice they do? They concentrate on Krishna's eightfold daily pastimes, Ashtakalya Leela. Devotees hear the full scope of Krishna's Vraja pastimes as they unfold throughout the day. 2 types of advanced devotees practice this kind of hearing: those who have realized this spiritual form and those who have not. Of course, because of lack of time, there are many more important points which is spoken here. And here it's given, it's only at liberated stage on a Brahmabhuta platform, at least after Nishtha, one can start actually diving deep into Radha Krishna pastimes. Before that, initially, as new devotees, one should be actually made completely, he should be exposed to philosophy, not Radha Krishna pastimes, because he'll get confused. His experience from material world is boy-girl relationship. You would give him Radha Krishna, he'll only superimpose that kind of relationship on Radha Krishna pastime. It will not help. So there are many more other topics maybe I can share. Speaking about Krishna, see, what you can speak, what you should not speak in public. Everything is given. It's compiled by one of our devotees. So, maybe it's 9:02. I'll just take a few more minutes because we started late. So, and there's no prasadam, breakfast prasadam. So this is today's prasadam. So, who is Srimati Radharani? You will find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is explained. Can you repeat? Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikriter Hladini Shaktirasmad. Ekatmanav api bhuvi pura deha vedam gatautau. Chaitanyakyam prakadamadhuna dadvayam chaikyamaptam. Radha bhava dyudisuvalitam naumi Krishna swarupam. Yeah, come, can someone read with the mic?
The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself.
Yeah. So, the absolute truth is one. Is absolute truth male or female? Yeah, he is what? He is male or female? He's both. In the material terms nowadays, you cannot say both. He's because people, trans means also something else nowadays. But both male aspect and female aspect exist in absolute truth. So in that you will find Srimati Radharani is like the caring mother. Just like husband and wife in a family, the female is the one who keeps the home neat. She keeps everything clean. She takes care of the husband, takes care of the children. Loving, compared to the heart. Whereas the husband is the one who goes outside. He starts a business. He is bringing money to the home. He is more like a creator, isn't it? But both aspects, the head and the heart, is in the absolute truth. The same absolute truth, for the sake of pleasurable pastimes, they divide into two. Why? Because Krishna is called as Atmaram. Atmaram means he doesn't get enjoyment from anything external from him. So therefore, if he wants to enjoy something, he expands his own potency. Is one of the Shastras is mentioned how Krishna once in the spiritual world, he came to the Ras Mandal and now he wanted to enjoy. So therefore, from his left side, he expanded Ladini Shakti. And that Ladini Shakti form was Srimati Radharani. And then, since she appeared in the Ras Mandal, her name Ra comes from there, Ras Mandal. And then as soon as she appeared, immediately she ran to get flowers to serve Krishna. That because she ran, Dha comes from Dhavati, which means to run, to serve Krishna. So therefore, her name Radha has come. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada explains in one of the purports in CC that Radha comes from the word Aradhana. Why? Because she is worshipping Krishna to fulfill all his desires. She is the best of worshippers. And that's where Radha comes from. Another reason why Radha is given, the name is given, is because she appeared in Anuradha Nakshatra. And therefore, she gets the name Radha. So, but the same absolute truth he separates as Ladini Shakti just to experience pleasurable pastimes. Why? Because they want to give pleasure to all the children which is all the jivas, Nitya Siddha or whatever siddhas, in the spiritual world. They want to please everyone in the spiritual world, and therefore they experience these pastimes. So, in the material world, King Vrishabhanu, he had a great desire to have Golokeshwari, Srimati Radharani, as his daughter. So that is the time when they would regularly go to Katyayani Devi and they would pray that they want such a daughter. One day when he was in his farm, there was a lotus which came and touched his foot. That time when he saw, within the lotus was a very beautiful, charming baby girl. Immediately he was very, very happy. He took this baby girl and showed it to his wife Kirtida. She was also happy. She was very much charmed by her beauty. But the problem was, her eyes were closed. They tried many, many things, but nothing could actually make her open her eyes. So one day, on some occasion of a festival, Yashoda Mai had come from from Gokul, and along with the baby Krishna. So when Yashoda Mai saw this baby girl, she was also fascinated by her beautiful charms. That time she went close to Srimati Radharani while holding Krishna. So as Krishna came close to this small baby girl, immediately she opened her eyes. So that is the time we are going to celebrate Radhàshtami. So that time, why Srimati Radharani opened her eyes only at that time? Because she was wanting to see Krishna as her only thing, first thing and only thing. Krishna is her only desired object of service. So like this it is mentioned in one of the Puranas. And in this way, Srimati Radharani, she wants to serve Krishna completely. Even, you've seen this verse, Shikshashtakam, last verse, Ashtashyava, Padaratam, Pinastumam. That verse says, whether there is happiness or distress, whether Krishna wants to embrace me or he wants to crush me, trample upon me, but still I'm always his servant. He is always my worshipful Lord. So this mood is actually Krishna is speaking these verses, Shikshashtakam, in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So that highlights the mood of Srimati Radharani. So since we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, just Vaishnavas means worshippers of Vishnu, just the worshippers of Krishna are called as Karshnas. But we are Gaudiyas. Gaudiyas means we are actually worshippers of Srimati Radharani. So why do we worship Krishna? Just because worshipping Krishna gives pleasure to Srimati Radharani. Therefore we worship Krishna. Though the scriptures also extol the glories of chanting Radha Nam. We chant Hare Krishna because when we say Krishna, Srimati Radharani gets pleasure. When we say Hare, Krishna gets pleasure. When we say Krishna, Radharani gets pleasure. In this way, we are actually satisfying both Radha and Krishna. And therefore, Hare Krishna mantra is complete mantra. It's the summum bonum and it contains all the rasas within. So, on this auspicious occasion of Radhàshtami, maybe just to conclude, I'll just end with one example, which actually explains the compassionate nature of Srimati Radharani. I heard this from my spiritual master. He said once in Vrindavan, there was a jackal. And some coward boys and kids in Vrindavan, they were torturing this jackal. Because jackal is considered to be like, you can say the malecha of the animal kingdom, the lowest. Even the way he howls, the way he looks, no one likes. So these small kids were actually harassing the jackal. And finally, trying, hitting the jackal and chasing after the jackal. The jackal went and fell in a ditch. So what did these people do, coward boys? They actually set the ditch on fire. So when they set the ditch on fire, immediately the jackal started crying out loudly. And that was the time when Srimati Radharani, along with her Sakhis, Lalita and Vishaka, they were going. So, she's also called as Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani. So she said, how is it in this place of Vrindavan, in the holy abode of Vrindavan, can anyone be crying? So not being able to tolerate someone's distress, immediately she sent Lalita. So Lalita Sakhi, she went to this place. She saw that this jackal was in great distress because the whole ditch was set on fire. immediately she told all the kids to go home. And she somehow got the jackal out. And she took this jackal to Srimati Radharani. Looking at Srimati Radharani, this jackal fell at the feet of Srimati Radharani. And since the jackal took a subordinate position in front of Srimati Radharani, she immediately gave the jackal a position of gopi in the spiritual world. So this pastime is very, we can derive many lessons from it. It's very instructive. How? We are all like the jackals in the in the ditch of material world. And the fire we are experiencing is samsara dhavana lila loka. And amidst that fire, if we also call out for the mercy of Srimati Radharani, at that time we can get the mercy. Srimati Radharani is always in a blessing mood. And what can she give us? A position of gopi in the spiritual world. That means she can make us one of her servants to serve Krishna. And this is a pleasure for devotees, to see Radha Krishna unite. You have heard there are two literatures written by Rup Goswami. One is, I think, Lalita Madhava and Vidakta Madhava. So one talks about separation, one talks about union. So one of the literatures, when he was talking about the separation of Radha Krishna, he was writing under a tree. So as he was writing it and reciting it, all the leaves of the tree fell, all the fruits fell away, and the tree became completely withered up. Then he wrote the next book, next literature, called as, I think that is then is Lalita Madhava, which talks about union of Radha and Krishna. That is the time again the tree came back to life. Isn't it? So similarly, devotees also like that. When we see people in this world exploiting energy separate from Krishna, then we feel great pain at heart. But when we see people are also enjoying, they are enjoying seeing Krishna and his energy together. They are happy to serve other devotees in their devotional service to Krishna. That is what gopis do in the spiritual world, isn't it? They are happy serving Srimati Radharani in her devotional service to Krishna. But Srimati Radharani doesn't just take that. She goes to Krishna and tells, my dear Krishna, look at this devotee. He's actually a better devotee than me. You please accept him. When Krishna hears such a request from Srimati Radharani, he cannot refuse at all. So therefore, on this auspicious occasion of Radhàshtami, one prayer we can offer to Srimati Radharani is that she is always 150% in line with the desires of Krishna, whatever it takes, as I explained by Ashtashiva Padaratam verse. Similarly, we can pray that at least, not 150%, some percentage in my life, if I can be in line with the desires of my spiritual master. We can pray to Srimati Radharani, and as you can see, the deity of Srimati Radharani, she is always in a blessing mood. So Radhanath Maharaj says, whenever he goes to the streets, when he sees the red hand symbol telling us to stop, don't walk, don't cross the road, he says, I always remember Radha Govinda's Srimati Radharani, red hand, red palm, which is actually blessing. So such is, of course, the thought of pure devotees. But at least we can also see that Srimati Radharani is always in a blessing mood. And try today at least to chant, or in any way, perform Sankirtan, chant Hare Krishna, study more and dive deep more into Radha Tattva, and perform more devotional service to attract as much as possible mercy of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani ki, Radhàshtami Maha Mahotsav ki, Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande.